Hi, everyone. Today is Saturday, January 25th, 2025. Welcome. I'm Jeffrey Morgan, and this is a talk I host twice a week to discuss my experiences on the path of soul transcendence. This offering is brought to you by the Movement of Spiritual Awareness with the encouragement and support of my friend John Morton, who holds a mystical traveler consciousness, which is the spiritual consciousness that allows us to do the work that we're doing here today. If you're new to the call, the format is simple. We're going to start by calling ourselves forward into the light, which is calling our awareness forward into the light of God that's already present. And then we're going to chant three Anai hues. Hue is an ancient name for God, and Anai invokes a quality of empathy and compassion. Then I'm going to play a video clip from my teacher, John Roger. And then I'm going to do a reading from Wordsworth. And then we can talk about whatever you would like. So, all right. Would you like to just take in a deep breath and shut your eyelids? Father, Mother God, Lord God of all creation, beloved, we call ourselves forward into your most precious love, light, and sound, asking for the light of the Holy Spirit and light of the Christ to fill, surround, and protect this gathering and everyone here, so that only that which is for the highest good will take place. At this time, we open ourselves to receive of the presence of the mystical traveler, Christ consciousnesses, and the Holy Spirit. And we receive of the blessings and the healing and the clearing that's available to us, asking that any karma or negativity that can be lifted be taken into the nothingness and dispersed in the nothingness from which it came. We do this session in the presence and under the guidance of the mystical traveler consciousness. And we ask this consciousness to remove anything that might stand in the way of all the blessings and awareness that's been prepared for us. And we do always ask this for the highest good of all concerned. We connect into the joy, the inherent joy of the presence of the soul. And that joy fills us, extending out into all creation as loving in action. And at this moment, we ask that all of God's creation be filled with joy and peace. We are so grateful to be together, gathered and witnessing to the majesty of the Spirit that we all are. We're so grateful for all the blessings that you bestow. And for all of this, we give our thanks, knowing that above all, thy will is done. And so it is. Berush Bishan.
just recently undergoing some very serious illnesses that were uh, supposedly going to take me off the planet, even though I was already off. I think it was trying to put my body in the ground. And when I got up and was able to move around, the most amazing things started happening. The people I'd be working with, they'd do anything, and I'd just bust out into hilarious gales of laughter, and it would just discombobulate me. I would just say that, I couldn't say stop. I would just go like this, and tears and laughing, and I'd fall. And of course, the weaker I got, the stronger they came at me. And the stronger they came, the more I laughed. Now, I don't know if you know that, but when you're laughing real hard, if anybody hits you, they can't hurt you. Well, next time somebody goes to hit you, just get into that place where you're laughing. Not only that, I got laughing so hard, I got them laughing and rendered them vulnerable also. But that laughter had such a depth of love and a sense of deepness inside of me that it started removing the constrictions that were placed in my body. It started just ripping things loose. At the same time, it was also healing the underlying illness. It was remarkable. Love reduced me to laughter, to tears, and then picked me up again.
Okay, and a short reading from Wordsworth, William Wordsworth. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar, not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. All right, looks like we already have some hands raised. Richard and Lalinia. Lalinia.
Hi, Jeffrey. It's me. I just want the group to send light to the border. I live in El Paso, Texas. El Paso, Texas is one of the lowest crime large cities in the United States. Believe it or not. And there are a lot of really good people here. We met with a group of people last night, and a lot of them are in service to the migrants coming up from Central America, Venezuela, Mexico, and taking care of people in all kinds of ways to try to assist them into being safe, basically, and feeding them. Things have shifted over the last few days, and I just am asking for the light. For all the people and what they're doing, all the people that are migrants that are trying to get into safe places. And that's it. Just asking for the light. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Natasha.
Good morning. Hi.
Morning.
So this seems like a random question, but it's really, I really could use some help with this. I know that this has to do with the things that we allow into our consciousness and the way that those things affect us. And I came across a program on Netflix that I really like about witches and vampires.
Mm-hmm.
However, I notice when I watch it, I get really um, I really resonate with the program more so, right? And I understand about movies, right? When we get into character and we really resonate with the characters. And I'm wondering if you can speak to how that watching that kind of material may affect consciousness and may actually um, open us up, right, to anything that's unclear or of a negative nature.
Hmm.
That's my question.
Yeah, so my experience is there's a couple of angles on what you're talking about. Um, because of my sensitivity, I've had the opportunity to work on a lot of different ways to clear because I would find myself uncomfortable or not in a good place, and then I'd have to figure out how that was being created as an experience in my consciousness. Now, one thing is it's important to recognize in from the internal looking out, we're only experiencing our karma. So to some extent, the concept of taking things in on one level, now this is why I said there's multiple angles. On one level, it's all an expression of curriculum, and there's a range of probability and choice within which you're going to experience and learn. So in one sense, there's a radical perspective that says if your intuition or you're being pulled there, you're probably being pulled by your karma, and then you're watching it. And movies and TV are a very valuable tool in for many people because sometimes it allows them to process karmas that they have on the mental and emotional level without having to have the physical experience.
Mm,
So it's like you watching, some people will be attracted to watching war movies or researching a specific war. It allows them to complete a mental or emotional karma from that war without actually having to enlist and be in the army or something.
mhm,
So on one hand, there's an inherent intelligence to your karma that will bring you the experiences you need for your own completions. On the other hand, there's a kind of a systems approach which says that we don't fully understand the level of information that is communicated through TV programming. So on the deeper levels, you're only experiencing your karma and you're going through your curriculum. But there's a lot of dimensions of the lower self and the body and the subconscious. And to a large extent, there is an energetic exchange that usually will take place. So you can get things like subliminal implants from watching television or subliminal communications. You can also activate, if you have a lot of karma with the unconscious, you can activate what I would call creative unconscious, where your consciousness will start inventing shapes and images and things like that based on that. So you'll watch a scary movie and then about like ghosts or something, and then you'll be so convinced there's a ghost in the next room and you won't want to open the door.
mm,
But there actually isn't energetically a ghost there. Now, there is always the caveat that ironically you're doing creative unconscious and there also happens to be a ghost there. And they're just not connected, but that's why this is a fun universe within which to experience. So, from my perspective, I tend to look at most experience as involving energetic exchange. And there's a way in which we can choose or exercise a high level of responsibility where we say, okay, can I do this thing, whatever that thing is, and still maintain my loving neutrality and my focus on spirit? And so, on the one hand, you go, if I talk about my job, like, can I maintain my loving all of the time? And can I be kind and can I be neutral all of the time? And the answer is probably no, because even if we maintain a discipline or try to hold it, we'll get to a moment where you go, well, what is that thought in my head? How come that came in?
mm,
Well, because it's part of your curriculum and your thoughts, like a playlist, it starts playing and comes in and you got to complete that. Now, we as egos go, I thought about it, therefore it's part of me, therefore I have to do something. Well, it's part of the experience level that you agree to. So you do have to do something called complete it, but you don't have to judge it. You don't have to incorporate it in. You see? So there's a radical perspective that says, well, maybe we take, instead of trying to eat the whole, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So if I can just do that one thing with loving and neutrality, I'm going to do that one thing. If I can maintain that 1 minute with loving and neutrality, then I'll go to the next minute. So in a sense, this is not me saying, don't watch that show because it's bad. This is me saying, understand and start to investigate what's being activated and where. Because a lot of people have an antagonistic relationship with things that trigger them. But really, we should be saying thank you to things that trigger us because they usually reveal to us the parts that are incomplete inside of us. And interestingly enough, you start asking, well, was I a vampire or was I a witch or was I something in another lifetime? Yeah, probably. But understand that there's also lifetimes on other levels, like the astral level, the causal level, the mental level, the etheric level, even other planets, other dimensions, other timelines, parallel lives, simultaneous lives. There's a lot of worlds without end going on. So for me, I use it more as an opportunity and I go, oh, thank you, God, for showing me this thing that's going to allow me to light up all the spots that I'm not complete with the concept of vampires or the concept of witches. So for me, I mean, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment and maybe I'm masochistic. I would sort of watch it until something gets triggered and then I go,
Yeah,
wait, let's look into what that is.
interesting.
And sometimes it might be a memory surfacing where you might have been burned at the stake during the Inquisition.
Yeah. I guess my only fear about it, because I really do enjoy it, my fear is that I'm opening up my consciousness to dark entities by watching something like that. And that'll come in and scare me when I'm not.
Do you know that belief system will probably open you up to dark entities, to be honest? You have more dominion than you realize as an initiative traveler. It's not, I run into dark entities all the time. I run into demons on the other side.
Mm,
Sometimes they ask me for help,
yeah,
you know? We don't have to have the traveler does not require us to have an antagonistic or against us relationship with any of that stuff. In fact, what does Jesus say? Love your enemy.
yeah,
No, that doesn't mean I'm gonna sign up for their team or go subscribe to their magazine or any of that kind of stuff. That just means I don't have to have any againstness. I can just hold in the integrity of my energy. And it's also about how you relate to it.
yeah. I'm getting
So
as you're talking.
be,
Please
because
more.
well, because and I'll tell you this, I'll give you an example. There's no circumstance I'm aware of where smoking marijuana is compatible with the energy that we do, the energy that we work. But I have observed different energies of people using marijuana. I mean, since I was a teenager, I mean, I was always like precious about protecting my initiation. So I was avoiding that anyway. But even if I wasn't protecting my initiation, my own sensitivity and my awareness and seeing what people's auras look like, I was like, I don't want anything to do with that. That looks gooey. I don't want anything to do with that. But I'll just point this out. There is a religious practice in Hinduism in the worship of Shiva where they smoke what's called like the chalam, and
Hmm.
it's a mixture that includes marijuana that involves THC and all that kind of stuff. But their auric field and their energy looks totally different. It's still not compatible with what we do, but it looks almost cleaner than somebody who's doing it recreationally
Yeah,
because they're doing it as part of a religious practice. Now, granted, none of that's worth it. The sound current is what it's all about, for sure. But it struck me that in the integrity of my perception, that changes things. So the way that we relate to what we're doing, the intention behind what we're doing,
yes,
becomes as important as the thing itself.
yes.
So in a sense, like I've also seen people in the movement who go to a concert And if they go to a concert with intent to listen to the music and avoid weed as best they can, knowing that people at concerts smoke weed, but they're really there for the music and they're calling in the light and they're protecting themselves, they're
Yeah.
usually not picking up a bunch of stuff. Whereas somebody who goes to that concert with a, oh, I don't care, we're at a concert, it happens, and they almost like subconsciously attract the contact high,
Yes.
that starts to mess with their energy and their initiation from my observation. Now, I don't have authority to say any of that, but intent seems to matter. I've seen people shielded walking through a cloud of marijuana,
Yeah.
including myself, being totally shielded energetically. I felt like JR was just all around me the whole time, just a bubble, did not even touch me energetically because I did not have the intent to engage with that. I had the intent to get through
Yeah.
it and out the other side with no engagement.
Yep, I get that.
So for me, when I'm looking at a show like that, I'm always asking myself, is this a necessary experience? But I have a very open definition of necessary. Is there an opportunity this is giving me to clear something? So, sometimes watching something evokes a lot of loving and sweetness in me. So I go, great, it's a good tool. But I call it living medicinally. So it's like if something isn't medicinal to me, I don't expose myself to it. And I try to have intention behind everything I do. I had a lot of freedom in high school, actually. My father and my mother, particularly my father, used to say, you know, you can go out and do just about anything, but you need to tell me what your goal is when you go out. You need to have an intention.
Mm,
You need to have a destination.
mm, hmm.
And it always kept us out of trouble. All the kids who would go out without an intention or destination, they were getting messed with by the cops. They were the whole thing. But the people who had like a clear intention, we would be in these weird situations. Sometimes even the cops were involved and we never got in trouble. It was crazy. It made no sense.
Yeah.
So I started to see that there's something very powerful that happens when we place intention on something. So if you can maintain a medicinal intention when you're watching any show that you watch, and that includes watching the news. A lot of people watch the news and it's just a bunch of outrage porn. They just watch the news so that they can get real riled up and outraged. And I'm talking both sides. I mean, right now, you got a guy on the right, or I don't really know whatever. He's on his side, we know that. But we got that guy in there, so all the lefties are real pissed off. But then when there's a lefty in there, all the righties are real pissed off. And then you start watching the news and just get real riled up. And
Mm.
now, again, I have a very broad definition of medicinal and necessary. So it may be that, yeah, this is important. I need to watch the news. It's riling me up and it's giving me curriculum to clear.
Mm.
It's giving me work to do.
Yeah.
I think that's valuable. But if I'm just watching that for the stimulation of the outrage, or
Yes.
because I'm addicted to the adrenaline rush that I get when I get really pissed off about something, I don't know if that's I don't, for me, I choose out of that.
Yeah,
I often have fun, like I'll watch a mystery show just because if a writer can trick me, if a writer can like do something unexpected without being utterly ridiculous, I love that. I love being tricked by writers. I love when the writing is so good, it's so subtle, where they like gave you clues in the beginning of who it was, but you didn't really know who the killer was, but then you get it at the end.
yes.
Oh my God, I love that. It's the
Yes.
best.
Yes.
Um, but there's something, but I always know what I'm getting out of the experience, and I always know why I'm doing something. And the why I'm doing something might be, I don't know why intellectually, but I know that I'm following the spirit. And that's more than enough of a why for me. In fact, that's the why I mostly work on.
Yeah. Well, as you're saying all of this, what came forward really clearly was that I got scared with the way that I was enjoying it and getting really engaged in the program. Even though it's a lovely, lovely program, I got scared and so the fear is the thing that I get to look at, right? It's what
Yeah,
is,
and there's also the you're judging yourself for liking something that's a little morbid, or liking something that's a little occult, or liking something that's a little, so where's the witch trial going on inside of you, and how can you clear that and heal that? And
right,
where
right.
did it happen in your past that's present right now and up for you? And how do you clear that? And how do you make it totally okay to be a witch or a vampire and know that you're totally loved by God?
Right. Right.
And then
Good.
it becomes a gateway, and then it becomes a gateway to freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. It's definitely it's an opportunity, a little one, a big one, who knows, but everything's an opportunity. And thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's
Yeah.
that old use everything for your upliftment, growth, and learning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I probably could have saved you a lot of time if I just started with that, I guess.
No, no, no. It was super valuable. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Okay, God bless you.
God bless you.
Okay, Natalie.
Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you so much. Even that answer um, just gave me a lot of clearing of some of the things that I want to talk to you about. I've been doing a lot of work the past 5 years, internal work, and trying to heal a lot of my childhood trauma because I
Mhm.
realized that it really has impacted my self-esteem and my relationships. And even through all of that excavation and surrendering, I'm finding myself feeling very stuck. And it's coming up in like real fear of abandonment and rejection. And I haven't been in a relationship for the past 4 years. And as I start to go out there and think about or play with the idea of getting a relationship, a lot of things are coming up and triggering me. And it all comes back to rejection and abandonment. And ultimately, like the thought, the feeling that I'm not good enough. And today I come to you with like needing some guidance, some direction on how to get through this, get to the other side. Because the rejection and the abandonment is so much that I even feel it in my body when it feels like it's going to happen. Like if the
Yeah,
person's not going to call me back, or did I say something wrong, or am I attracting people that are going to continue to like help me stay in this pattern? So I'm
yeah,
stuck. So I don't know, any guidance, any perspective,
yeah.
how to
I do have a
get through this.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So one thing that I've discovered in my own journey that kind of tripped me out when I stumbled upon it, and you know, there's a couple of really interesting books. One book that I read, not that I'm suggesting you read it, it's by this Danish philosopher and it's about as dense as they come, but The User Illusion. And also, Marshall Rosenberg's Nonviolent Communication or things of that nature. You probably
Yeah.
read
Uh-huh.
several of
Uh-huh.
those.
Uh-huh.
And I mentioned this on another call, Danella Meadows, Thinking in Systems. It's an incredible book. Oh my
Okay.
God. Anyway, the ego is very, very adept at simulating identity and then creating a story around that identity.
Mm.
The freedom for me comes in the realization that different parts of my consciousness exist, firstly, as a completion action. We think of ourselves as individual egos. But if we saw ourselves as a bunch of different incomplete actions that seek to complete ourselves through the experience of our ego, we start to understand that it's not one person with these traumas.
Mm.
It's different parts of the consciousness that are experiencing different ways of relating to the karma that's present, to the action that's present, to the curriculum that's present. So for me, I started to realize that things like approval and seeking validation are simply strategies that some part of my consciousness put in place, believing that that was the best way to get what underneath I truly desire, which is to know that I'm divine, to know that I'm loved, to know that I'm God.
Mhm.
So the interesting thing is something like seeking validation, we tend to judge. because society goes, oh, you should be self-assured and all this. Like we said, I tend to look at it as a perfectly reasonable set of functions designed to fulfill a perfectly reasonable purpose.
Mm.
Instead of trying to fix the traumas,
Mm-hmm.
I actually find that the clearing occurs when I realize the misinterpretation that got wired into my consciousness within the false reality of ego at the time of the quote unquote trauma. So if I had to bottom line all of it, I would say all trauma on the emotional level, on the consciousness level, exists within a false ego reality that locked in a set of beliefs about reality in place at a specific perception of time. So
Agreed. But how do you rewire then?
so yeah, I'm getting to that part. I had to set
Okay.
had to set the table before I served the meal. No,
Okay.
yeah, got you. Um, the way that you do it is firstly by challenging the I am that is smaller that thinks that it happened. Because for true forgiveness, in my experience, is getting to a place in consciousness when you realize there was nothing to be forgiven because it was already forgiven.
Ooh.
God's nature is infinite love and mercy. For me, that means that the forgiveness has already occurred. I just need to mature my consciousness up or update my consciousness to that presence and that reality. To the extent that I hold on to againstness or to that I hold on to an ego belief or story, I'm actually perpetuating that withholding of loving or that withholding of receiving of that infinite love and mercy. So the first thing I do is challenge the story. And how do I do that? I first start to go back into the story and I bring in healing. I bring in light. I bring in spiritual teachers that can bring healing and light. I start to change my perspective. And this is pretty radical stuff. So you start to put yourself in the shoes of the abuser and you do self-forgiveness. And you start to realize from their perspective, they're not the abuser. They're simply a soul having a human experience that's confused. It's like when I encounter demonic forms on the other side, a long time ago, it would be like, take out the sword, let's fight them. They're bad. Now I see them and I go, oh, a pilgrim who chose the scenic route home. I can't judge them. I've been on this planet too long to judge them. I can't say that their approach is better or worse than mine. I can't compare or say that I'm right and they're wrong because I've proven to myself enough that I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing. If I'm smart, I say I don't know a lot and I follow close and I follow slow and I go where love's going to take me and that's it. And I have no story about that. I just follow that. So you start to change your perspective, and all the people that you blame, you become them and realize that you are them. Because most trauma is us holding on to a person that no longer exists inside of us. So, for example, when I healed with my parents inside of me, it was actually very it's very weird. It was a combination of it was almost like bringing things present. I realized I was holding on to a version of them that didn't exist anymore. And that one of the greatest illusions that ego perpetuates upon us is the illusion that we're the same person, whatever this person is, over and over again. That each day we're the same person and we have to work with whoever we were before. The grace of God, in my experience, is 100% about being born anew every day. It is the newness. It is a sort of joyful forgetfulness. Like I forgot how to be angry at you. I just don't. It's not that I forgave you. I don't even know what I'd be forgiving you for because I forgot how to be angry at you. It's the strangest thing in the world. And everything just updates to the loving that's present. And the person gets updated inside of you. And for me, it was like, I remember this moment when I was 18 and I called my father at 2 a.m. and he picked up the phone and he didn't even act tired or ask me why I was calling at 2 a.m. He just picked up the phone and said, "I'm so happy that you're calling me. What's up?" And at that moment, it didn't matter what he did. It was like the slate was clean. I couldn't remember it if I tried. I couldn't remember any of the things that people say happen, whatever. I don't know any of those people. I just know this guy that's going to pick up the phone when I call at 2 a.m. with no questions asked. And then it's gone. And there's a way that when we bear witness to the divinity of somebody beyond the system of their karma or the system of our karma, because most of the time we're not even relating with the people. Please understand, it is very rare. The only way that I know to truly relate to another person is through our own soulic connection. When we're one, we can transcend the many debris of our karma and curriculum and actually see them. Most of the time, we're looking at a mirror, we're looking at our own stuff. We don't have conversations with other people, we have conversations with ourselves. But it is possible through self awareness and clearing and releasing to get so centered in the soul that you can't tell the difference. You can't tell the difference, but like the way that you and I are right now, I have no idea where this ends and this begins. I just don't. I don't know. I couldn't tell you if I tried. And that, to me, is available with every single person on the planet. And I can tell you, I've had this experience with, diagnosed schizophrenics at the Midnight Mission, or drug addicts, or angry people on the bus. It doesn't matter. It's everybody is a doorway into infinity. Every single person, and it's not. People who know me know that I'm not into performance art. I'm not into the idea of loving people. I'm certainly not into behaving loving with people. I am thirsty for that moment of communion that's available. The real deal. And oftentimes the people that we quote unquote hold trauma with, and somebody could send me an email, "Oh my God, but this horrible thing happened." That you can go as outrageous as you want. But freedom is in seeing the God that is transcendent, the spirit, the soul that is transcendent of that condition, that belief, that story. And when we talk about this compassion that's available, I often talk about, like, I read this one excerpt from Buddha, the Discourse on Goodwill. May all beings everywhere be filled with joy and peace. And he just goes down this whole list everywhere, the mean and the, like everyone. That to me is freedom. When we feel the insecurity or feel judged, it's literally because a part of us has been declared not okay at some point in our existence. So for me, freedom is knowing that God loves me infinitely, infinite love and mercy, whether I am a murderer or a saint, and realizing there's no difference. There's just a soul having a human experience. And it takes time, but when we shift our intention, most of the time, our intention is to forgive and to fix something. So we have a story. We do forgiveness for years. Oh, they were so abusive. I worked on forgiving and letting go of their abusiveness and the whole thing. No, what if the intent was to fall in love with them? No matter who, not in I'm talking about spiritual love, but to truly fall in love with the divinity that they are, and to forget why you were ever angry at them, to be so immersed in that loving that the forgiveness is forgetting or not understanding why there's anything to forgive because you love them so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it is available regardless of the story, regardless of how abusive. Now, here's the thing. Some traumas will leave neurological traces in the body. So even if you clear at the level I'm clearing, you need to work with a talented body worker or somebody who can do diet stuff or things that can like start to recalibrate on a cellular level. But that's just, it's like in the information revolution. So um, at a certain point, information went from meaning that I convey from my mind to your mind to the ordered arrangement of matter capable of interpretation by a mind. And that's how you get a microchip, right? Well, the human body is much the same way. It works in recipes. Everything is constructed in consciousness. It's a simulation. The entirety of consciousness is the simulation, but it works on recipes and combinations and formulas. So there is a level where once you do this level of forgiveness, you can still have annoying things come forward. Like if you hear a certain sound or if somebody touches you a certain way, you start to do a certain gesture because it's in your nervous system. But even that can be cleared. Please understand that can be cleared. That's just changing the arrangement of matter. And you can do that. And you can especially do that if those other levels are already clear. Then you just go to a talented body worker and say, okay, my intention is to, now that it's clear everywhere else, I just want it to be anchored into my body so that it's like I was born today. And that's how then it releases.
Amazing. Thank you.
So that's my spiel. Hopefully it's helpful.
Very, very. Thank you so much.
Okay. God bless you.
Bless you.
Um, let's see. Kate Alvis?
Kate Alves, yes. Hi. Thank
Alvis?
you, Alves. Yeah, it's actually it's Portuguese, and I guess in Portuguese it's something like Alves, and I'm not even sure how to say it in Portuguese. Thank you, Jeffrey. You've got me in tears already, and I'm so grateful for the whole communication today. The whole communication that started so early this morning. It's been very rich and deep. There's a variety of things going on for which I'm very grateful and feel very blessed. And one of them is to have this time with you and with everybody. So I'd like to place all of us in the light for the highest good and know that we are in a perfect moment, each moment with each breath and each step. So let's see. I guess I'm going to go backwards from my list of things I'd like to communicate about. One is that I have been working for quite a long time, my whole life really, of healing.
Mhm.
My background is in a more holistic adventure, and I was very blessed by spirit to tell me that I had to do massage one day when I was meditating in my chair in Santa Monica, and I didn't know anybody that did massage. I'd never had a massage, and within a moment's notice, my whole life shifted. And when I was in massage school, I knew I'd have a school. What I didn't know was that it was going to end so abruptly, um, which it did, because it seems that's how my life has manifested the next expression. So this morning, it came to me. I had done a what I called a blessing salve, um, that I took to a little farmer's market one time, and it was just the most delicious experience of. It was a salve that I made with frankincense, myrrh, and gold. And I used toothpicks, and people would come up, children, old people, whatever, it didn't matter. And give them a little, or they'd take a little, and I'd say, place this wherever you want to bless yourself. I didn't need to know story. I didn't need to know anything. And just the sacredness of that experience and witnessing people going inside and checking it out and then doing it was just remarkable. It was just a blessing into itself. So this morning I'm working with clearing, continuing to do clearing, and one of the areas is from the residual from radiation in my pelvic area. And there's a long story which I don't need to go into, but I'm working on making a new blessing salve that will support many levels, energetically, physically, emotionally, on all the levels. And so I've just placed that in the light, and I've know that it will continue to make a difference for me. So I'd like everybody to place that in the light for me. The the and if there's anything that you have to say about that, that would be great. But the other piece, just so you know, is I have a family situation going on. And the other day I sat with myself and I said, well, so what can I do? And what I got was I saw this family member um, being taken by the hand by the Christ and by the traveler into the heart of God. And so that's all I'm doing, is I'm just holding that vision. And this morning what came through was the concept of oversoul, like like bringing forgiveness. Like I love how you talk about stepping into someone else's shoes and doing forgiveness. So I got the concept of the oversoul of the family, and then it became the oversoul of the world. So those are the areas that I'd like to have some feedback, if there's any.
Yeah, I think just one point that might be an opportunity with the healing and particularly with clarifying how that works, even in your relationship with your family. So I've often talked about John Rogers' statement that all relationships are inside of us. Now, the upshot of that is also that as a healer, all clients, all patients, all whatever are inside of you as well. Therefore, I find it powerful to know that the only healing that exists is healing myself. So I never think to myself, oh, I'm healing other people, or oh, I'm doing this to other people, or I'm holding a vision for them. I look at it as literally the them that I know, that person. If I'm taking that person's being taken to the heart of God, it's the part of me that is them being taken to the heart of God, because that's the only relationship I've ever known anyway.
Yes, I agree with you.
So I think the one the one thing that came forward just to reemphasize was, and what I loved I loved that you shared that another salve was coming forward for you to heal yourself, but then you also talked about sharing that experience with other people. But even that experience was you just healing yourself. You were healing the part of them that's the part of you that's them. So it becomes this process of that's enough. And even like you talked about the abruptness or the end of the school. And I think oftentimes, and I'm not saying you went into this, oftentimes the ego can go into, but I thought you were calling me to do this, Lord. I thought this was my thing, or I thought this was what, right? And it always struck me. We went on these trips with John Roger to China at one point, and somebody had told me that they were basically organized so he could give a soul initiation to a little kid through a fence in China.
That's great.
And it struck me that if I look at the history of travelers and teachers, just how much they would do to support a single soul's awakening? You mean this entire school was just for me to learn this one thing and then it could end? Yeah, exactly. Maybe this entire organization was really for the benefit of one person. I'm totally open to that because everybody's worth it. And maybe this entire gathering is just for one person and we're all just supporting that. And I'm really okay with that too. And maybe I'm just talking to myself right now and I'm just clearing the part of me or assisting the part of me that's you. So I think that when we get a glimpse of reality, it's perfectly natural to ask the question, how could God be so generous? How could Spirit be so generous? And then the answer inevitably is because God is generosity. God is the giving. And what is that giving? It's the infinite love and mercy. It's the overflowing and the abundance of that. So the crazy part is, I think that's what ordinariness really is.
Mhm.
It's understanding that it could be that simple and that it doesn't need pomp and circumstance or story. It just needs presence. It needs a willingness to be open to what's present. And we find always the Spirit is what's present. The loving is what's present. That's why when I say we're calling ourselves forward into the light, which is calling our awareness forward into the light of God that's already present, I say that because there was a point at which I went, wow, sending the light, where would I send it? How would it move? I've never been in a place where the light wasn't. So I don't have an experience level of like, this place has less light than this, and this light goes, I don't know. I just don't know. But I know that I can bring myself into greater attunement with God's presence and the Holy Spirit that is present. And that becomes an amplification process, at least in my own consciousness. You mean that doesn't affect other people? There are no others. There's just God. Why are we so concerned with other people when there are no others? There's just God. And if you don't like that word, the beloved. And if you don't like that word, the Spirit. And if you the loving, whatever everyone's flavor is, it's all there.
One of the things that came to me and through some very difficult times was a little small affirmation of one breath, one step, and lots of love. And that to me is the whole deal. That with each breath and each step, the loving is present. And I'm so grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. I love those affirmations too. One of my favorites is I say when I meet people, or like just each time I see them in my head, I say, you're in my life so that I can love you.
Mm-hmm. And one of my, the school was a tremendous gift of my ministry. And so part of the journey is learning that my ministry is regardless. And so one of my regardless is going out, for which I'm grateful that I can still go shopping and take care of myself on that level, because for a long time I could not. And so I go to stores and I'll check inside. Where am I going? Oh, okay. I'm going to go over to this store or that store. And I will have these moments with people where I, I have come to, and I don't do this with everybody, but I will say, "What's your name?" And they will tell me their name. And in that moment, there is just this presence of God that is present. It's like we are. in the essence of the divine. And that to me is, I couldn't ask for a better ministry in those moments. So yeah.
Yeah, but see, I think that's where the ordinariness is available as well, because the school might have just been you completing karma,
Right.
and that's totally okay. It's not better or worse than ministry. And honestly, my perception is anytime we have an authentic, unconditional intention to love and serve in our consciousness, every breath we take is a ministry.
Mhm.
Our very presence is a ministry.
And that's what
It's
that affirmation is for me. Absolutely.
exactly. So it's like looking at that school and going, okay, I had a mystery school thing that I started over here in Egypt, and now I'm done with that.
Yeah.
Going home to God.
Yeah.
Does it have to have that other stuff? I mean, look, attitude is great, and having an attitude of ministry with everything you do is very, very smart. But then we have to be very careful that our ministry doesn't become the story versus just saying, yeah, it's just God completing itself, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. What a privilege.
Oh my God. I'm so grateful. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank
You
you.
too. Love you.
Love you too.
Mm.
Um, I'm gonna call it before I do, there's an event, and maybe we can post a link if it hasn't already. There's a fundraiser at Windermere Ranch in Santa Barbara that I'm going to physically, but I think there's online rolling registration enrollment or something like that. It's like donation only. I'm not sure what the terms are, but I think it's not too late. It's possible that it's not too late. So if it's for a good cause, because Windermere Ranch is a beautiful hub of peace on the planet. So um, I'm going to be up there today, and I so appreciate you spending this time with me. And thank you. God bless you. I love you. The blessings already are. Thank you.